You know, centuries before Jesus was born, there was a prophet by the name of Isaiah who made this declaration, a very simple declaration, and this is what he said: "They shall call his name Emmanuel." Emmanuel means, really, God right here. God right here. In fact, the Christmas story is really the one supreme purpose of God manifest to us. And what is that purpose? God has one purpose, one supreme purpose, and that is this: to come into my world. To come into your world. That is his heart. Now, that may sound like an easy thing to do, but I can assure you that it is not as simple and straightforward as it might sound. Because when God chose to break through into this world with the birth of Jesus Christ, there were several obstacles that he faced in order to do that. And I would just like to briefly share what those are. There are probably plenty of them. I'm just going to give you a few. The first one is this. We're going to call this one all the complications. There were a lot of complications. When Jesus came, there was a Roman occupation. There was Roman oppression. It was a very hard time, a very harsh time, a very cruel time. It was an unfriendly time. When Jesus was born, he was birthed into an unwelcomed environment. It was not a friendly environment that Jesus came into. And as this unfriendly environment is manifest in the world, as it is in the world, so also it is in the heart of men. The heart of man by nature is not friendly to the goodness of God. Men do not simply, automatically, naturally gravitate to the love of God. In the Garden of Eden, where it all began, as God approached Adam and Eve, they went into hiding. Because it is the first inclination of a person. It is the first intuition of all humanity to run and hide. Even with Adam and Eve, when it was the very thing that they needed the most. People do not automatically, immediately accept and embrace the love of God, the grace of God, the light of God, his goodness. It takes a moment. And so there were these complications. Jesus told a story one time about some seeds, and this is what he said. He said some of the seed fell in a place where the enemy came and stole it immediately. The very best that God has for every person can be stolen away because of this unfriendly, hostile environment that we're in. Something to consider. The second one, the second obstacle, we're going to call this all the circumstances. You know what I'm talking about. Those unwelcome, seemingly unnecessary, difficult circumstances in life. Do you know it is possible that a single event in someone's life can keep them from embracing the love of God? I'm sure that Mary had planned on having her baby in Nazareth, but life happened. I'm sure that she was not planning on a long, difficult, arduous journey right at the moment when she is about to deliver. But life happened. We have this phrase, life happens. And it does. It did for them, and it does for us. And it is possible that a single event in life, something that is inflicted on us by life itself, or even self-inflicted, can then become an affliction in us and actually keep us from drawing near and coming close to the goodness of God. It can actually create disappointment and pain and bitterness and hurt and sorrow and shame and guilt. Going through tough things and hard things can actually keep people from embracing the goodness of God and what He has for them. When Jesus was speaking about the seeds, in one of the scenarios, He said this: the seed fell in a place where there were a lot of hard things around it. And the hard things that were around it ended up causing it to be scorched. And it never produced what God intended. So there are circumstances. God wants to show His goodness. God wants to do something awesome in someone's life. And yet, because of maybe a single event in their life, they are suspicious and they back away. The third obstacle, we're going to call this competition. There is a lot of competition in our world when it comes to our heart, our life, and our destiny. There are things that would love to take the place that should be rightly occupied by Jesus Christ. And that competition can crowd out the goodness of God coming into our life. When the expectant couple were traveling, they came to a place that looked like might be a place where they could stay. But instead, the message was no room. So they had to keep going and had to keep moving. It is possible that I can have so many things in my life that compete with the goodness of God that there is no room for Him at all. Jesus, when speaking about the seed, said there was some seed that fell in a place where these aggressive thorns rose up and literally choked out what God intended. It is possible to have things in your life that compete with something that God wants to do. Everyone in this room has a God-given, God-ordained destiny. They have a life that has been designed by God. Jesus said it this way: I have come that you might have life. He's not talking about a pulse. He's not talking about a heartbeat. He's talking about a new beginning. He's talking about a different kind of life. A life that begins and where you are and what you are is put aside. And you find a loving relationship with Jesus Christ. What is the conclusion to all of this? Simply this: as there were obstacles in that day, so are there today. And the conclusion is simply this: the only way that God's purpose for your life and mine can prevail is by an intentional choice on our part to receive it. That's the only way. Consider this: I choose to open my life. I choose to make room. I choose to go against my natural inclinations to resist. I choose to open my life and come to Him. So the most pressing question, I think, is this as we close: have you opened your life to Jesus? Have you made room for Him? One of our familiar carols has this line in it: "Let earth receive her King." And I'm wondering today, have you received your King? Would you bow your head with me? There's a phrase that is oftentimes seen even out in public that says that Jesus is the reason for the season. Would it be a shame to have all of the celebration and all of the frivolity of Christmas and all of the gift giving and all of the parties and all of the joyful times and yet miss the whole reason for the season? I believe that every one of us are here in this room today by divine appointment by God. I believe He loves us that much, that He cares that much, that His goodness is that amazing. And perhaps you may be grappling with that question right now. Have you received your King? Because He's here right now. And more than anything else, remember, His one purpose is to step into your world, to transform your world, to give you the very life that He fashioned before you were ever born. Don't worry about all the details. He'll take care of that. What He's looking for today is just simply someone who's willing to make room. Someone who's willing to go against their first impression, their natural inclination. And to consider that what we speak of today is real. And it is beyond our imagination.